Hey beautiful people, my name's Brittany.
And I'm Connor.
And today we're going to be answering the question, do I breastfeed exclusively for Ilya, Gray Fox?
What's the answer?
The answer is yes. Ilya Gray Fox is 5.5 months old and they've only ever been breastfed, and also when we're referring to exclusively breastfeeding, it also means that they've only, I don't pump and
no bottle feeding.
No bottle feeding. So they've only ever been fed from my boob. Directly, and I feed them whenever they're hungry.
Yeah. And they're quite a big baby.
Huge. They're 21 and a half pounds, maybe 22 pounds by now.
Yes. I'm not sure their inches, but
they feel tall.
Yeah, they're quite long. They're a big baby. I don't know what else to say. I think they look incredibly beautiful and incredibly healthy, and I'm really proud of them. And I think babies can be incredibly beautiful and incredibly healthy at all sorts of different weights.
Definitely.
I have seen some other exclusively breastfed babies that it seems like just from this very small experience that I've had, it seems like exclusively breastfed babies seem bigger. Yeah. But I don't know if that's actually true or not.
I have no idea.
Yeah. And it kind of doesn't matter. That's not the reason we're making the video.
No.
We're mainly just wanting to talk about that. I think it's really special, and I love that Ilya gets to have, obviously all the nutrients from your body, but also that connection with you, I think is really important. And in saying that, I think there's a lot of different ways that we can offer that same style of connection.
For
and
sure.
We've heard from a lot of people that this can be a very sensitive area for some people who are having challenges breastfeeding. And so this video is definitely not to put that in your face, or to put other forms of caretaking down at all.
It's just our experience. A lot of people have also asked about what the logistics of that look like.
Yeah, it's a great question.
I want to talk about that. And also just to I'll mention that after. So logistically speaking, I've never been away from Ilya for more than 2 hours, I think is about the...
Yeah, I think that's true.
And most days you and Bridget will have them for about an hour and a half. And sometimes up to 2 hours. Maybe it's been an hour and 15 minutes at the 2 hours and 15
at one time.
Right.
We'll generally take them more than once in a day, but the longest period of time in any given day is about an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, but that's the max.
And at night, I think the longest period of time they've ever gone at night is maybe 4, maybe 5 hours.
Yeah.
And it just feels really good for me. It feels really natural. I was gifted a pump, just thinking, or actually multiple breast pumps people gave me, thinking maybe I'll be into doing that. Elements of it sounded really good. I mostly felt called to donate my breast milk. And then when I felt it out more, I really just didn't want to hook my boob up to a machine and it just it hasn't sounded appealing to me. And also I feel I put so much time and energy into breastfeeding as it is. And I just enjoy the relationship that I have with Ilya there.
And I think the very small other piece is maybe disrupting the natural flow that your body is creating in terms of the communication that Ilya is giving to your body and your body's giving back with how much to produce and when to produce, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean there's so much happening when our baby is suckling on us, and there's this communication, and there's the milk letdown, and a lot of that I've heard isn't as natural or flowing for everybody when they're pumping. But I know a lot of people also who really enjoy pumping, and I think it's a great option.
Yeah. I
just haven't felt called to do that, or called to feed Ilya out of a bottle or anything like that, which if we pumped my milk, that would probably be how we got it to them. And people have asked me is this hard to be exclusively breastfeeding Ilya? They're 5.5 months. They haven't shown an interest in eating food yet. So we're just kind of letting them lead that as well, as they know best.
They touch food and
they put stuff in their mouth.
Yeah, they put a lot of stuff in their mouth.
Not food
and not food.
Leaves.
But they don't take it in. They're not really interested in swallowing it. They'll put it in their mouth and make a face and then kind of push it out. So
yeah, and I feel it is challenging at times.
Yeah, I could really see that.
And also it's so what I want and so what I choose, that I feel it's really working for me, and I think it's really working for Ilya. And I feel like you and Bridget have just, we've all adapted to really make that possible. I think sometimes it's hardest when I'm just wanting a little more autonomy. I'm feeling like, because it's not even just that means I'm around Ilya that often. It means that like I'm not by myself. So sometimes I'm really wanting some self-time, and I just really can't have that in an easy way. Or like maybe I would want to go, I did this once, I went to Barton Springs, and it was just like between driving there and driving back, I didn't have that much time.
Yeah.
And so just like creating space for myself is definitely a challenge. And I feel like I've learned so many new ways to do that, and just how to be more of myself around you guys and around Ilya, and how to like also ask for what I need. And I think you guys do such a great job of supporting my self-time. I feel like it's really on top for you.
I think we're all, Ilya centered in
Yeah.
this family, and that's how we want it to be. That's not to say that we necessarily put Ilya's needs before our own, but we really try to make sure that Ilya's needs are absolutely met, and that we can figure out ways to get our needs met while not compromising Ilya's needs, because there's so much that Ilya can't take care of on their own yet. And so yes, it feels really important to each of us, and part of that is to make sure that you do have some self-time and some autonomy.
Yeah, and that I'm getting like enough sleep and
exactly. Yeah, that we're all really, caring for Ilya, and that means also caring for ourselves individually and caring for each other. And this is a huge element of what you do as a mom.
Yeah.
You do a
It's so
lot of
true.
stuff. You do a lot of stuff, but definitely it makes that bond, it makes you just such a important piece of Ilya's life, that it makes sense that Bridget and I would maybe put a little more energy into supporting you directly, because that supports Ilya.
Yeah, definitely. I've thought about like how this could be even more ideal, moving forward, or with another child, and just in general. And we've been talking about this sense of like community or family or tribe, and I think it makes a lot of sense that we did do this stuff more in tribe in the past, because I think it's way too much for like 2 people, 1 person, even 3 people. It feels like we could use somebody else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think in my ideal future, if I did this again, I would love to have another breastfeeding parent who I could share that with. And I did have like one small experience with that, with a friend who was breastfeeding at the time, and she breastfed Ilya just like when we were hanging out at the park. And she has done that with other moms, like when she's watching their children. And I just felt like, man, that sounds amazing. That would just be so ideal to be able to share that. I feel like it opens up a realm of possibilities.
Yeah. And some of these things are really taboo for people, and I think it's interesting that a lot of these things that have become taboo were things that are rooted in us as human beings, in massively social creatures. And we have, I think, sort of isolated ourselves into these family units that don't necessarily serve us or serve our children. It's not to say that we can't have an exceptional life in those
like nuclear families.
Yeah, or in any kind of paradigm we create. But it is to say that we have not done it this way for very long.
Yeah.
And so for our roots to be kind of taboo, like nudity and sex and raising children, for a lot of these topics to be really taboo, I think is to isolate ourselves from our history and really what like has made us human.
Such a great point.
And I think that there's a merging that we can do now to talk about these things and remove the taboo and remove the shame, and just be realistic about like what is practical and what is healthy physically, emotionally, mentally for us, as we are living in the society that we are living in, what is possible. And certainly not everything that we used to do 10,000 years ago is applicable or healthy now. We've made a lot of advancements, but in terms of social connection, I think we've kind of lost some. I think we've maybe regressed in some areas there. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I do
thanks for
think
being
it's
open to sharing
important.
about it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we lived in tribes, and then even past that, we've lived more in multi-generational families or
Right.
extended families, and a lot of places, they still live like that or live in a more community-based setting, and I think that there is this back to our roots movement happening right now in the realms of healthy living, and one of those ways I'm seeing that show up is with more people being drawn to live in community again, and
Absolutely.
I definitely feel that pull. I just got chills talking about it. It feels
Yeah.
like... Yeah, and it makes sense that it's challenging because it's outside of the norm, and also I think that what we can gain from that is huge. Just what I feel like Ilya gains by having 3 caregivers is like...
It's massively
oh my
different.
gosh. And like the love, we all love
Yeah.
them so much. You were sharing about their size. I think another reason
Yeah, I do.
that they've grown and they're advancing so much is just because they get so much love and attention and support and sleep. Just all the things.
Have a very low stress life compared to a lot of other babies who have caregivers that are themselves stressed. And
that makes sense. They need support too.
yeah, and just like sleep alone, like Brittany on your own trying to take care of Ilya would be ridiculous. You would be just so underslept to say the least, and that would create a stressful environment for you and for Ilya. And so again, like, this is not to say like, and so we are doing it right. But we are saying that like this is something that we're doing that is working really well. And we want to keep moving in the direction of those types of things that work really well for us, work really well for Ilya. And to create possibility in the mind of others. Because, 10 years ago, if I were to consider what raising a child would look like, it would never include a third person,
Yeah.
And it probably wouldn't be exclusively breastfed, or it wouldn't be this thing or that thing that now feel like absolutes. I can't imagine doing it any different. But I think if someone had suggested it or just mentioned that this is possible, that's when the brain can kind of open up to potential, and then choosing what really works for you, not doing it like us, but doing it like you with an open heart and an open brain, that like you can do whatever you want and you can make it as awesome as you can possibly make it.
Yeah, I love that. It's so interesting in reflecting on that. I realize any like sort of radical thing I've ever done, I like first heard about and felt like that's crazy. And then also felt this piece of me that was like, I'm curious about it. And
Totally.
now whenever I feel that way about something, I'm like, that's crazy. Why do I keep thinking about it? I'm like, oh, I guess that's what's coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and again, I think it's really just about that openness and offering other options. And ultimately the message I think we feel really drawn to is to share, like, this is really resonating with us, and maybe it's a little different. And is there something that really resonates with you in any realm of your life that you want to embrace more of, no matter if it's what's happening around you or totally different? And we want to encourage that authenticity for you.
Yeah, to really be ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's really what we're all here for, and we're here with a purpose, and shining our light in that way, I think, is really what the world needs.
Yes, and that's how we are attempting to support Ilya in their journey, so that they can have that very clear for themselves, and maybe they don't have to go through some of the blocks and challenges that you and I
definitely.
Have to kind of do in order to find that light.
Yeah.
So much love.
So much love.
Yeah.
Happy breastfeeding.
Thanks for watching.